Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Excited to talk about your book. It's your debut novel, A Taste for Lies, which I see behind you.
Yes.
S- So, what made you want to become an author?
I feel like it was something I always wanted to do. So it's not really a question of like what made me decide. It's more like, why did I wait for so long to do this? And I think it was just like I've been reading, romantasy really since I was a kid. Since like I think the earliest I can really remember is like Song of the Lioness Quartet. And I've just really always been a fan. And I think it's just crazy that I didn't do it earlier, that it took like until after I had my son and I like paused from reading. Like I'd always been such a voracious reader, right? But you have kids and I had my son right in the beginning of COVID. So it was just this like really, really tough time. And like a lot of people I think have this story, right, where they find like rediscover their love of reading after they're like coming out of postpartum and this really like difficult time, and they discover this like sense of self again in it and remember these things that they loved. And it was right around that time where I was kind of rediscovering that and loving it, and I thought, okay, like I'm ready. Like I'm ready. I'm ready to do it and to go ahead and write that book I've always thought that I would.
That's awesome. And I'm assuming you chose romantasy because that's the genre that you love the most. But did you think about any other genres or did you know it had to be this?
So I actually have a work in progress for contemporary romance, which is like about a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, and I love it. I'm so excited about it. But this story was like hounding me, right? I had to get this one out first, and now that the first book is out, I'm like, okay, now I have to finish the series before I can ever get back to this work in progress. So there will be a contemporary one day, but it's like waiting on the shelf for after this.
Okay, so how I've read A Taste for Lies. How
Yeah.
would you describe it in 10 words?
So actually, an ARC reader came up with the best description of it, and I write it like 10 times a day when I'm self-wrecking on Threads. So I can say it pretty fast, but it's Beauty and the Beast meets Bridgerton, but make it a high-stakes fantasy heist. And as soon as she described that, I was like, this is it. This is the description of the book. So that's how I describe it.
That is great. So
Yeah.
where I know you said the story had to be told. Where did the idea come from?
So I think, story ideas can come from, for me, they come from two different places. It can either be like from the premise, like my contemporary novel, it's the premise that I knew I wanted to do. But for this one, it was actually a scene. Like it was the characters in the moment of the scene came to me first. And it's that scene where Laura, the FMC, is out on the balcony and she's wearing another man's coat, and Taryn comes up and he has this super heightened sense of smell, and he's just like goes crazy by it, right? It's just like he can't take it. He can't take her like covered in someone else's scent. And I didn't even know at the time. So I am like laying in bed, this scene comes to me. I pull over my phone and I just start like typing it into my phone. And I don't know their names, right? Like I don't know anything except the fact that they're outside. She's wearing another man's coat. He has a heightened sense of smell and he's like really incensed by it. And I didn't know after I wrote that if it was going to be like a dystopian novel or right, and it was going to be like that, like kind of sci-fi maybe is the reason why it has this heightened sense of smell. And as the characters came out, they just like were talking in this way that was very romantasy, and I'm like, okay, they're in a romantasy world. They know where they are. I just have to listen to them and go with it. So that's where it all came from. Actually, is that one scene.
So how long did it take you to actually do the writing of it?
I have a full-time job, and I right before I was going to get a break between Christmas and New Year's that my job does every year, and I'm on this Zoom call with all my coworkers, and everyone's like, "What are you going to do on your break? Like, what's everyone going to do?" And I don't know what prompted me to do this, but I just like wrote into the chat, I said, I am going to start writing my novel that I've always been thinking about writing. Like I had that scene had come to me already. And I'm like, I'm just going to take the time to like get it started. And everyone's like, you are kidding me, right? Everyone's saying, I'm going to like, get together with family. I'm going to do whatever. I'm like, I'm going to write a novel. That's what I would do. So I started right around that time in Christmas, Christmas to New Year. So right kind of at the beginning of the year. And then I think I was done with the first draft and it was off to the editor by August of that time. So again, it wasn't like, it was just whenever I could find the time to write because I have a son and I work full time. So I don't know how much but it felt like it like poured out of me, right? Like I couldn't like stop it. It just kept coming, kept coming, kept coming. So it was really enjoyable, like fun process actually. Like none of it was hard. It was just fun.
That's great. And that's actually really fast for like a romantasy type of novel. Usually those take a lot longer. So it's very impressive
Yeah.
you're able to do that with like also being a mom, also having a full-time job and write something so wonderful to read.
It took me, it's so funny because for the first month, I really didn't write anything besides that one scene. You have to build the world, right? So you have to like figure out the characters, build the world, figure out like the politics of it and all of that. You can't even really like put pen to paper. And now that I have this like contemporary novel on the side, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier. Like, when are existing in the real world, and it's so much easier. But and then when I sent it to my editor, I did a really big rewrite. I had a subplot that I completely took out. Taryn's POV wasn't in there in the first round, so I like took out the subplot, put in his POV, and changed the ending actually. So there was like a big, massive rewrite during that time between that and then when it came out in March. Did it come out in March or April? April 8th.
That's awesome. So what was you said I think the easiest part was probably that first scene to write then. Yes?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote the characters like spoke to me, right? So I knew they knew what they were doing, right? They would just like the dialogue came very, very easily. Their characters came very, very easily. Uh, but it was like they just, I don't know. I think the hardest part was like bringing it all together, right? Because they knew where they were going, but I had to be like, okay, like let's reel you back a little bit. Like, let's remind you like where this story needs to head. So I think that was the harder part.
So throughout the book, one of the themes that I took away from it was there's a lot of hierarchies. There's hierarchies in the thieves world, there's how the elites treat the apex, there's even like hierarchies within elites based on kind of where they're from. I think you tease a little bit. Why do you feel like it was so important to show so many different levels of hierarchies at play in this world?
Well, I love that you noticed that, first of all. I just wanted to say, I was like, oh, she really gets it. One of the big themes that I wanted to explore that I think all fantasy explores, which is why I love it so much, is this idea of power and power structures and like who has power and why. I really wanted to like explore this idea of an oligarchy that is not, which is like this human elite but is only there through this kind of like trick of birth, right? Like what makes them these people that they should be able to have this kind of power over the apex who are actually the powerful beings in this world, right? And so I kind of wanted to play with that of the apex are a rare group, right? And they're really othered, and there's just a lot of prejudice and fear and bias around them. And again, these are like all themes and all things that we experience in our regular world and are experiencing right now in our lives. And that's what I think is so wonderful about fantasy is that you can kind of like play with those big ideas, but in almost like this kind of safe environment. So that's what I really wanted to do. And you see that like theme of the othering and the like, bigotry and things like that explored not only in that big main relationship to your point, between the elite and the apex, but also like right within the thieves, within when they go to another country, like foreigners, like how does each country like look at foreigners? And you can tell it's really different in Shantara than it is in Viridia of how they like approach that in their societies. So that's one of the most fun things about world building, right? Is that you have to like really think through all of these like different parts to it. And that's what makes it feel real when you read it.
Yes, I agree. So we definitely have a love story between Alora and Taryn. It's definitely a slow burn.
Hmm.
Uh, but this
But they
is
get
my
the fun
take.
stuff in the first
But they
book,
do
if you
get
want to
they
say
do
that.
get to fun. They do. They do. Um, but what's interesting about it is like they both feel like this very instant connection when they're first together that neither one of them understands, and I think thinks for it's happening for different reasons.
Yeah,
It also feels like he falls first, at least based on like the perception that we're given,
for
and
sure.
he's more willing to acknowledge or accept it
Yeah,
than before she is.
yeah.
So why did you choose to go with kind of like that slow burn in the relationship? Because I think sometimes I feel like romantasy has stopped, like we've skipped over that sometimes.
Mm.
Right? And I think and we jump to fun, spicy things, which is great. But because we do love that. But very much so. But I also feel like sometimes it neglects like the character development and the relationship. So for you, like, why was slow burn so important for the two of them in this book?
I just think slow burn is so delicious, right? Like this tension of like, will they or won't they? And also wanting, like the longing of like, and that's why to me, it's like, of course he falls first. He has to fall first, right? Because it's like that wanting, longing. And like, I love those chapters from his POV where he's just like tortured by it, right? And you just want the MMC to be tortured by it. Um, it, and then they also, I think, like from a character point of view, the reason that Taryn is able to have those kinds of feelings is because of his background. It's because of his mother. It's because she's instilled that in him. And I'm working, the prequel's almost done now. It's going to be like a free kind of freebie for my newsletter subscribers, but it follows his mother's story and like his parents' love story and their love match that is talked about in the book. And she has such an open heart and she has like passed that on to him. And so even though he can't explain it, it's like he knows he has to follow that because that's how he's been brought up. And meanwhile, her experience has more taught her to do the opposite, right? Has taught her to guard herself, has taught her to, not give in, to not allow that part of herself to even explore the possibility. And so she's keeping herself from it the whole time. And so it's very specific to their characters and to their backgrounds. And we all react that way in love, right? We do that because of our experiences and like what we've been taught and how we've been brought up and how we've experienced love is how we like navigate it. So that was part of it.
Well, you did a wonderful job during it because I was just like, I think as a reader, like I'm like, oh, what's going to happen? And then when it finally
You're
does,
like,
you're like,
yes, touch.
thank God, thank God, right?
Yeah, you
Like,
can't, I mean, you can't have a real like fuck it moment. You know what I mean? Where they're
yeah,
just like tension, 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 and then that's it. I'm just doing it. You can't have that without the build, right? You have to
right.
build there to like really feel it when they finally like, and that's like rule number 10 is like maintain control. Like, so it's not a matter of like if they're going to lose control, but when they're going to lose control. And
And
so you're just
how,
waiting and how they're going to lose
yes,
control. So you're waiting
hmm
for them to finally like let go and lose that
yes.
control.
So when I read this book, there were, I don't, I'm going to be non-spoilery. I'm trying really hard, really hard. Um, my jaw dropped. I was shocked by some of it. I went back through it and I was like, I did not see this coming. Maybe this was a breadcrumb.
Yeah.
And I think there are things we learn about Tara and Anna Laura that are both surprising, which is, I think, really helpful. And about the world too, that is also surprising. Do you feel like you dropped breadcrumbs for any surprises? Um, or are we crazy as I've like tried to like I feel like I'm like a Taylor Swift like Easter egg
Oh
like are there
yeah.
Easter eggs? Or did I
No,
make
but
up
she
an
really
Easter
does
egg?
that. And yes, absolutely. Absolutely they are there. The foreshadowing is there. And I think and I'm going to do my best as well to not, give away give away spoilers, but what's one of the things that was so fun about the ARC team is that we had our own like little Discord channel. So I would get to like have these kind of real-time reactions of as people are reading it and as they're progressing through and realizing these things as they come along. We had like a spoiler channel that you could only go in like when you were ready to see that. And there is one twist that I think is like super spoon fed, and a lot of people guessed, right? And a lot of people said, like, oh, I knew this was going to happen. I knew this was going to happen. And it's before a bigger twist that maybe you didn't see coming. And it's almost like a feint, right? Where you think, like, oh, I've guessed it. This is it. And maybe even you're almost a little disappointed because you're like, oh, I knew that. Like, I knew that that was going to happen. And then when the bigger thing happens, like one of the characters says, when it happens, like I feel the floor drop out from underneath me. And like that's how I wanted the reader to feel in that moment. It's like, oh my God, the floor's like dropped out from underneath me. I never saw that because my eyes were on this other one. I thought
Hmm.
it was this other one. Um, and one of the foreshadowing things that I can share that's not, I don't think it's a spoiler, hopefully. We were talked about in the 10 rules. There's like the 10 rules of spycraft and thieving from the guild. And it's at the top of the book. And she refers to them throughout the book in her head, right? She's always like thinking like rule number 1, rule number 10, like she's thinking through these rules and using them to guide herself. And one of the big rules is rule number 3, and it's actually on the back of the book. It's like at the top of the blurb, which is the best lies are mostly true. And that is the very start of the foreshadowing to that bigger twist. And when she says the rules, that is the last one she says. So she says all the other rules before that one, maybe even some of them multiple times. And she doesn't say it until she has met Taryn and she's with him and she's facing him. And it's about her lying to him. So it's in that moment. And so she kicks it off, right? And it's with that, like the best lies are mostly true. And then it comes together at the end. And I can't say any more, but hopefully
I know
that
it's so hard.
helps. Hopefully that helps explain it.
It does
For you, at least.
for me because I've read
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
So the book is told primarily from her perspective, but we do get more than like a dozen chapters from Taryn's perspective. I know
Yeah.
you said originally the first draft didn't have him. So why did you put him in there, and what were you trying to showcase by
Yeah.
doing that?
So originally it was just that final chapter that's in his point of view, where it's a pretty long chapter. I think that's his longest one. And that was the only one. And when I gave it to my editor, she was like, look, you're going to hate me for this. And like, I'm so sorry to do this for you. She goes, but you write him so well. She's like, would you consider putting him throughout the book? And I was like, oh my God, of course. Like, of course that's what it needs. Like, I didn't, that's what a great editor does is they can like make that connection for you. So as soon as I started putting his chapters in, I was like, it was so great because I felt like I really got to know him. Felt like I really got to know his little like found family, right? Which is like Carter and Maeve, and because it's their interactions you get to see, which is so fun. And then you get that like delicious, delicious longing, which is just like so, so wonderful to put in. So I was like, I feel like it grounded the book a lot, finally, was having that added. And like, I look back and I'm like, I can't imagine if that wasn't in there. So I'm so thankful that she had that suggestion.
We do get the epilogue and a different person's
Yes.
perspective, was
Yes.
which was a little surprising for me.
Yeah. Yes. The reason for that, and I'm going to say this as carefully as I can, is because the final moment happens with her friend, not with him. And that was purposeful because another big theme of the book is female friendship, and it starts with them, right? And it's like really that's almost her primary motivation, Alora, the FM sees throughout, right? She refers to her best friend Eleni the whole time, and she's just like constantly you know, that is like just like such a strong relationship for her in it, because she's somebody who doesn't have a lot of relationships, right? Doesn't have like a lot of that. And she's one of those people who only has those few people in her life. Like people can be either way, right? But some people only have the few people in their life that they would like kill for, right? They would go to bat for. And that's who she is and the part of person she is. So, um, and in the end, when the moment happens that I won't talk about, uh, I wanted it happens with this primary relationship in her life. And that is what brings her to that moment. So
It
hopefully.
was a nice like surprise.
Mhm.
Like when I got to it, like I didn't expect it
Yeah,
to be told from that perspective.
one of my best friends, actually, who I've known for years and years since college, called me sobbing when she got to that moment because she felt that so strongly, that connection between the two of them. And like knowing me personally, like it meant so much to her. And I also think it helps with book two and leading into that because one, like these side characters are definitely like getting their own kind of stories, and like I want to try to start to weave in like more POVs as we continue through the series. So it was just kind of a kickoff to get into there.
Okay. What is your favorite line of passage from the book and why?
There's a lot of one-liners that I like a lot that I think are really fun, but the passage I probably like the most is when she's walking away from him. So she's just like met him in the training yard, and she's like, he's like not wearing a shirt, and she's like, maintain control. It's like she's starting to finally lose it, right? And he can't help himself but to like kiss her hand. And he knows he shouldn't do it, right? It's like in front of the entire court, and it's forbidden, and he really should like keep it together, but he can't because he never can. And he's thinking, and she's walking away, and he's like talking about how like his canines like ache to sink into the tender spot between where her neck and her shoulder meet. Uh, and I love that passage because it's just so delicious, and it's just like his like craving and his wanting and like
Yes,
not being able to have it.
I agree. So, we are dying to read the second book, and we have so many questions and theories. Um,
Yeah.
so many questions. What are you willing to tell us about the second book in the series? Besides,
Uh,
there is one coming.
Yes, and it is already up for pre-order. So it has a title and everything, and it's up there. It's on Amazon, so you can definitely see. Because and I will say too that the ending is different than it was in the first draft, right? When I first wrote it, and I wasn't happy with it when I first wrote it. And when I went back and did that kind of rejiggering, the ending like came to me, right? And it just like flowed, and it feels like the climax is like running, right? Like in that, in the book, like it's just like boom, 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 boom to like lead to this final climax. And you're like, oh my God, oh my gosh. And you feel like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. Now it's over and I have to wait. Like you're killing me.
Yes.
Like I know you feel it because all the ARC readers are telling me that. And I'm like, that's exactly the feeling I wanted. And the first draft didn't have that. So I was so happy at the second draft, like it totally nailed it the way I wanted it to. In the second book, you will definitely find out more about why they were so connected to each other and felt that connection towards each other, because I feel like that hasn't been really very well explained yet, right? That's still like an outstanding question. You find out more about Harlan, who's this like the keymaster, who's this very like mysterious figure, and we don't know a lot about him, but we like are very interested to know more. And it plays in very much to the FMC's journey of different things that she discovers that it's very hard for me to talk about without having, if you haven't read the end of the book, but both of that is really interesting. And then one other thing I can say is in there, which is so funny, but I had one good girl in the first draft of the book, and there was this like amazing, I loved it, spicy carriage scene that I had to cut because Taryn doesn't go with her right in the carriage to meet Harlan, and it didn't make sense. I had to pull him from the carriage. So we didn't get to have our like spicy good girl moment. So I can guarantee you I'm going to get it into the second book, like come hell or high water, because I was so sad to have to lose that.
Excellent. And are you thinking this is a 2-book series, or is their story going to continue beyond that?
It's definitely at least a trilogy. I have it like planned out as a trilogy right now, and then having like the spin-off of like Carter definitely gets his own story. Everybody loves Carter. They want him to have
I love Carter. I need more information about Carter.
I know everyone's like, what more Carter? But like, where's more
but
Carter?
More.
Yeah. So we definitely more of him like coming, but then I want him to also like have his time to shine and like have his own like true like time and story. But at least it will take a 3-book arc to finish like Taryn and Alora's like main story. So if I end up having to do it in 4, I will, but I would like to be able to finish it in a trilogy because I don't know. I feel like all these series extend for so long now. And so I just like, I love like the really traditional trilogy where like it's all right there together and that, in 3 books, you're going to get it all done, So that's what I'm aiming for.
Thanks for listening to Late Night Reads. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook at Late Night Reads Podcast. And check out latenightreads.com for even more information about all the books we're reading. If you loved today's episode, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review our podcast. And share the show with your fellow book lovers.